Hello viewers, today is January 18th and today I'm going to show you how I make my warm chow and what ingredients I add in my warm chow. Warm chow is great for the warm bin. It provides the all the vitamins, minerals, and especially the grit that worms need to digest their food. Since the worm don't have teeth, so that's very important. But we don't use this in our warm bins a lot. We just use 1 or 2 tablespoons at a time and don't feed them warm chow until the old warm chow is completely finished from the bin. So I will show you what I'm adding in my warm chow. So the first ingredient that I'm adding is the bird feed, mixed bird feed, and the mixed bird feed that I'm using is this one. I'm not promoting any company, so I'm just trying to show you that every year we buy the bag to feed the birds in our backyard. So I'm using this mixed bird feed that it has, you can see there's so much stuff it has, including the sunflower. Then I'll be using the Quaker wheat grains. So here you can see I'm also using this 1 cup, and then I'll be using a half of cup of cornmeal in my warm chow. Then about a tablespoon of all the lentils and grains that we have, so a tablespoon each. Then I will be using a 1 tablespoon eggshell powder and 1 tablespoon oyster shell powder. So eggshell powder, every day when we cook the eggs, I wash the shells and dry them, and then I make a powder of them so that I use directly on my potted plants, and I also feed them in my warm bins. They raise the pH a little bit, and they also provide calcium to the plants. The next thing that I'll be using azomite mineral. It has about over 60 minerals, and it comes from the volcanic rocks, and this is in the powder form. So this I also directly feed to my plants, potted plants, and I also give it to the put it in the warm bins, since this azomite has lots of mineral in it. The next thing that I put kelp. I use azomite about like 2 tablespoon. I use kelp 1 tablespoon. This seaweed powder, and you can see that this is in a high in potassium K, and it has phosphorus 0.5 and potassium 4. The next thing that I'll be using chelated iron. So here you can see the chelated iron that I'll be using just a 1/4 tablespoon. Then I'll be using the blood meal. It has nitrogen 8%, and this I'll be using only a half of the tablespoon. And this is the bone meal. Blood meal and bone meal, they are both are byproduct, animal byproduct. So if I use these both in my potted plants when I'm transplanting the plants from one part to another, and every 1 month I add the bone meal to about like a tablespoon to each of my planters. So these are the ingredients that I'll be using, and I'll also be using limestone. This is a garden limestone that I use on my lawn and with my on my plants. It provides the calcium, plus it raise the pH a little bit because some plants they need a pH up to 7. And especially for the warm bin, the warm like a little bit alkaline soil, so I use eggshell, oyster shell, and limestone powder, a little bit each, to maintain the calcium level and the pH level in my warm bin. So let us start, and today I'll be using this commercial grade mixer, and I'll be grinding everything very fine in it, so worm can easily eat. And as I said, that the worm doesn't have any teeth, so anything that in the very thin powder they can easily eat, and they can digest their food. So let's start. So first I put 1 cup of bird feed in it, and I'll start to run the machine and make a fine powder. Now you can see everything is in fine powder now, and it'll be easy for worms to eat. Now the next ingredient that I'll be grinding is the wheat oat. So let me put this in the tray, and then I'll add the oats in it, and I'll grind the oats. Now I'll be adding oats to my grinder. So it's a 1 cup of oats, and this oat expired 2 years ago, so you can use whatever the expired food you have in your pantry to this mixture. So I'll start the machine. Since the machine is very loud, so I have to stop the video here, and when I finish grinding, then I'll show you. So now I grind the oats, so you can see they are like the consistency is like fine flour. So let me put it in a tray. Then now I'm gonna add lentil to this grinder to make fine powder. Now I'll be using all the lentils that I have, 1 tablespoon each, to this mixer. I'll make a fine paste, and then I'll show you. So now you can see all the lentils, they are in like fine flour. So I will add this to my previous mixture, bird seed powder and oat powder. I'll mix this lentil powder to this. So now to this mixture I'm going to add ½ cup of cornmeal, I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons limestone, I'm going to use about since I already used limestone, so I'll be using just half tablespoon of eggshell powder and half tablespoon of oyster shell powder, now to this mixture I'm going to use quarter tablespoon of chelated iron. So I'm using quarter tablespoon of chelated iron. Now I'm going to use about half tablespoon of kelp seaweed powder. I'm using about half tablespoon of kelp to this mixture. Now I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons of azomite. I already added 1 tablespoon, so this is the second tablespoon that I'm going to add, and you can see how it looks like. It's all rock dust, and you can see inside, so it's all dust. It's very fine dust. Now to this mixture I'm be using about like half tablespoon or little less bone meal. So this is the bone meal powder. I'll put a little bit more, just tiny bit more. The next ingredient that I'll be adding to this mixture is the bone meal, and this is and you see it's all crumbled. So this is the last item to this warm chow, so I'll be adding about like 1.5 tablespoon. So you can see here this 1 tablespoon and just half tablespoon, not much, because as I said that the bone meal and blood meal, they're all animal byproducts, and it attracts the other insects and rodents. So when you are adding to this, and the bone meal adds lots of nitrogen to the bin, that and we don't want our warm bin to get hot, so just use the blood meal very little and a little bit of bone meal. So now I'm going to mix everything completely, and I'll add all this mixture into my sealed container, and then we'll go in the basement and we'll feed the worm, and I'll show you how much do we need to feed to at one time and the worm bin. So let me mix all this mixture first. So my worm chow is ready now. I'll put it in the container, and now I'm in the basement, and I'll show you how I feed the worm chow to my worms. And I'll just feed them very little bit, about like a tablespoon at a time. So I separate my bin. So this is the area, this is the feeding area. The other side I'm collecting the vermicompost. So I'm feeding on one side, so worm can move on one side, and I can take the vermicompost from the other side. So now I'll just sprinkle about like a tablespoon, and I'm not gonna feed this warm chow to this warm bin until I see they eat everything. So the bin is quite moist, so I'm not gonna spray any water. I'll just leave it like that for them to finish. As you can see, the compost is almost ready there, but there is still some warm babies here, so hopefully by March they all will move to the other side and I'll harvest this compost and I'll use in my this season's planting. Alright guys, thank you for watching. The next video I will show you how I make my warm food using a kitchen scrap. As you can see, my casting is very fine because I don't use the big chunk food in here. I always grind my food and I feed them the grind food about once or twice a month. So next week I'll be feeding them with my kitchen scrap, and I'll show you how I make my warm food with the kitchen scrap. So in the meantime, stay safe out there and happy warm farming. See you in the next video.